Get home from school, turn on my TV. Who are these friends staring right back at me? Now that we're older, why don't you come over and go back in time with me? 90s babies nostalgia.
Hi, I'm Amanda.
And I'm Jessica.
And this is 90s Babies Nostalgia, where two fully grown millennial women rewatch and sometimes watch for the first time iconic tween entertainment, parentheses, from the early 2000s, parentheses, not this time.
Just to be clear, we are not sponsored by or affiliated with any of the channels, shows, distribution companies, actors, anything that we talk about. We are not sponsored by or affiliated with. We just really, really love talking and watching TV. And today we are talking about
Heartstopper
Season 2, Part 2.
We're going to be covering episodes 4 through 8 and our outro. If you haven't listened to the first part where we cover the first 3 episodes and all of the new things, go ahead and listen to that. If you're looking for a spoiler-free zone, this one is not for you. And as Jessica mentioned, we are not affiliated with anyone involved in the making of the shows. We are not getting paid by anyone to make this podcast. Us, little old us with 150 Instagram followers, maybe, probably less than that. We just really like talking about it. We are fully in support of the Writers Guild of America and the SAG-AFTRA strikes. We support unions in this house, and we chose Heartstopper, A, because we love it, B, because you need to support queer media, C, because as far as we know, none of these actors are in SAG-AFTRA. Maybe Kit Connor because he did Rocketman, but probably not. And Olivia Colman. D, because the production company is British. I think I'm out of bullet points. But that's kind of how we're going to move forward.
Yep, for the time being, this is kind of where we'll stay. We're going to change things up a little bit. We mentioned this in the first episode where we covered episodes 1 through 3. However, we do want to say it here too. Trigger warning, this series does cover some sensitive topics, and so we just want to go out and say this just in case you don't want to continue listening to this. We completely understand, but there is talk of eating disorders, self-harm, bullying, and outing. So if any of those things are uncomfortable for you or just not for you, just go ahead and skip out on this one.
And these will become even more integral in the second half of the season. So keep that in mind. Jessica, what have you been listening to or watching lately?
Okay, my next thing is more connected to listening. I love music. We all know this. What my recommendation, which is going to be completely impractical for like most people, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. Go see a band you love, your favorite band, whatever you want it to be. Go to a show at Red Rocks. Travel to Denver, specifically if you're in the US. I have never experienced anything like that. I freaking love live music, and being able to see live music in nature where the nature is creating this beautiful acoustic experience where the sound sounded so clear and I didn't even have to wear my earplugs because there was no reverberation of like the bass or anything because it's just all being absorbed by the rocks. It was amazing. And so that's my what I've been doing / what other people should do. Go to Red Rocks.
I'm very jealous. It looked incredible. She watched a family of raccoons during the concert.
Like, they got a free show. There was like 6 of them, and they were just like climbing up the rocks. It was so cute.
Love that. My other one, we're saying other because we're recording back to back. Why do I feel the need to disclose that?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I was like, I changed my shirt. They won't know.
I did it, but and my shirt is related to my other one. Oh my god, it's so bit cringe and embarrassing sometimes, but like whatever. I'm over being embarrassed of what I like.
Mm-hmm.
I have been consuming so much Smosh content. I did not like Smosh growing up. I am a YouTube child. Let's be clear. I am a 90s baby. I was on YouTube in 5th grade, which was 2004, 2005. That is when YouTube started. I was literally there before the ads, before the copyright. I was watching the music videos and the silly sketches. I love old YouTube. I'm loving this old YouTube renaissance. My friend loves Smosh. I was like, that's so weird. Like, it's just gross boy humor. It's not even funny, and I don't know anything about Pokemon, and they got famous for the Pokemon theme song, so I really don't care. But recently, Anthony Padilla came back to Smosh. He left in 2017. He was one of the co-founders, and I just really love the story. So then I started watching it, and then there was a hot gay person on it, and then like everyone was funny, and now I have crushes on half the cast, and I watch all their content all the time more than TV, and it's a problem. And this shirt is from their Amazon store, but it's a good shirt. It says gay, non-derogatory, if you're just listening.
It is a good shirt. I would also second, great shirt. And
thank you.
Amanda's like love for Smosh has made me want to watch Smosh. Have I? Absolutely not. But have I thought about it? Yes, which is like way more than I ever have before. So
the thing I love about it is that it's silly humor. It's not juvenile. It's just silly. And it's fully grown adults. They're all around our age. Just having a good time. And it's not offending anyone. It passes the vibe check. There's a couple queer people. There's a couple people of color. And the couple people of color have no problem going up to the white people when they're trying not to laugh and say, have you ever been with a black woman? Just to make them laugh. So it's, yeah. It passes the vibe check for me in terms of silly stuff.
And now we're going to get into the rest of season 2 of Heartstopper.
Which is the other thing I've been enjoying so much.
Yeah, I was like, if you didn't listen to the first episode, that's confusing. I don't know why you're starting here, but also whatever journey works for you. We are loving this show. We loved season 1. We both went and sat and watched season 2 in one day. I think Amanda did it in one sitting. I didn't do it in one sitting, but I did finish it in one day. We both have since rewatched season 2. We are just loving this show.
I watched season 2 in one sitting when I first watched it. And then I rewatched season 1 to compare because I hadn't watched it in about a year. And then I had to rewatch season 2 to actually take notes. And as I was watching it, I was actively texting Jess like, I want to rewatch it again as I'm rewatching it now, because taking notes is like, I'm not sitting and watching and enjoying it. I'm still enjoying it, but I'm not like enjoying it. Like, I'm going to rewatch it again this week. I already know it.
Yep, me too. And I know my husband will make fun of me, but that's okay.
Whatever, Chris. Get a life.
I know. He'll always come out and he just goes, Charlie. And I'm like, shut up. I'm trying to freaking watch my show. Leave me alone.
Okay, so getting into it. Episode 4 is called Challenge. And this picks up from where we left off in episode 3, where Nick and Charlie decide that they're gonna be low-key in Paris. So they get into the bus to go to Paris and decide to sit with other people, which leads to Charlie sitting with Isaac and Nick sitting with Tao, which is kind of funny because, like, why? Like, why? It very much should have been the other way around. And also Nick tries to get out of it and offers his seat to Elle, and then Elle's like, no, because they had a fight. But it's whatever. They go to Paris. We get some great shots that we're going to talk about later. And they get to their hotel room. And, oh my God, Isaac's like, because it's 2 twin-size beds in a hotel room for Nick, Charlie, Isaac, and Tao. And Isaac's like, I want to sleep by the window. And then Tao's like, I don't want to sleep by the window. And so they take opposite beds, forcing Nick and Charlie to not sleep in the same bed. And it makes me so mad. They literally hold hands while sleeping. And then they have a fun day.
Like, to clarify, okay, the way she said that, they're both sleeping on the edge of twin beds, separate beds, and there's like a little gap in between, and they're both hands are off the bed all night long, which would make your fucking hand fall asleep. Let's mention that. But they're holding hands because they can't sleep in the same bed because Isaac and Tao are just dumb.
And then when they wake up, Charlie's hand is on the bed and Nick's is still hanging off. And I wonder if there's some intentional storytelling symbolism in that, but I don't have time to unpack that. So they go out exploring. We'll get into more of how the exploring goes, but it's a lot of walking around the streets of Paris in the Montmartre area or something. I don't know. And
that sounds right.
yeah, sure. French. And while Nick is off getting ice cream, Tara and Charlie have a little heart-to-heart on the steps about how, like, he's jealous that she and Darcy are out. And she shares that she's jealous that he and Nick actually talk about their feelings. Later that evening, Nick and Charlie finally have some alone time. Isaac and Tao are out. I don't even remember what they're doing. And they make out real hot and heavy. And then Nick starts kissing on that neck. Getting some of that good. Sorry, I shouldn't say it that way, but like,
especially because it's high schoolers.
I know. And then in the morning, we see Charlie brushing his teeth, and he goes, "Oh fuck!" and it cuts off because he got a hickey. So that's really what happens with Nick and Charlie in this episode.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Then we get Tao and Elle off to an icy and awkward start from their first date and fight. So they're not sitting next to each other on the bus. Things are just kind of uncomfortable between them. On their first day of exploring, everyone is kind of deciding what to do. And Elle mentioned she really wants to go to the museum. And Tao's like, yes, it's an iconic place for art history. We have to go. And the rest of the group is kind of like, well, we just want to explore. But really, they're like, we want to get you guys alone. Well, together, but alone together. So they go off together, separate from the group. They have a great time in the museum. You get this really fun montage of them like looking at art separately, looking at it together, like walking up and down the staircase. It's just like really fun. You can tell they're both in their element. Tao ends up apologizing, and they both decide that they're going to go back to being friends and just starting off where they began as best friends. And it's actually really sweet. You can tell they're both like very excited that they're going back to that part of their relationship. Tara and Darcy, there's a lot that goes on with them, but I would say the big thing in this episode is on the bus ride to Paris. Tara tries to bring up the I love you conversation from the Paris trip meeting to Darcy again, kind of being like, okay, why didn't you say it back? But also like, why didn't you say anything at all? Like, can we talk about this? And she just plays dumb and switches the conversation to talk about prom outfits.
Yeah, she'll be like, it's not even the why didn't you say it back? She's just like, do you remember that? Like, can we talk about what happened before the Paris trip? And she's like, oh, right. I still think we should go as Mario and Luigi. And here's why. Or Princess Peach and Mario. And this is why. Like,
I think in this one, it's Fiona and Shrek.
No. It's Fiona and Shrek the first time.
Oh, okay.
When they first start talking about prom, she's like, can we go as Fiona and Shrek? And they're like, it's not Halloween. And then on the bus, she's like, I still think we should go as Princess Peach and Mario, and this is why. And we just see Tara drop it. And like we said, she confesses to Charlie in that other scene about later, which is after the bus ride, obviously, about how she just wishes that Darcy could talk about her feelings. She loves that she's so charismatic and joking, but not everything should be a joke. Isaac asks Charlie on the bus on the way to Paris how he knew that he liked Nick, and what it feels like to like someone. And Charlie tells him, like, I couldn't stop, like, I always wanted to be around him, and when I was around him I felt like I couldn't breathe, and also I literally couldn't stop thinking about kissing him. And Isaac's face just kind of like falls at that point. And then also James hangs out with them as they explore their group, and particularly he's always around Isaac when he's in their group, and he mentions to Isaac that it's like he has such a cool friend group and it's just really fun to be around other gay people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
With Imogen, we pick up on the bus where her and Ben are sitting next together. They're actually a couple now, and
she's watching Ben watch Charlie.
yes, she is. And she's trying to like get Ben to engage. She's like, let's get a lock and like put it on the bridge and write our initials on it. Like, let's go explore the museum together. Like, she's just trying to get him to be involved in anything that has to do with the two of them. And he's just like staring at Charlie and ignoring her all
And
the
he'll be like,
time.
no, that's stupid.
Mhm.
Like,
And
what the fuck
dismissing
did you
her.
come to Paris for if you're not gonna walk around, like, regardless of if it's with your girlfriend or not?
Yeah. And so Imogen ditches him, decides to join Charlie and Nick's friend group.
And they welcome her with open arms, which I'm sorry, I really love the inclusion of Imogen in their friend group.
Yeah, it's pretty great. And then during dinner that evening, so they all get back to the hotel and it's like a class dinner. So everyone that's on Paris trip is all having dinner together. And Ben chooses to sit next to Charlie in fucking Ben fashion. And is like starting to like be like, oh, we haven't talked in a long time. How was your day? And Imogen overhears this and she's really upset because she's like, I'm your fucking girlfriend and you did not care about me at all. Like, why? She literally asked him, like, why didn't he ask her how her day was? And what's his obsession with Charlie?
It's so out of pocket the way that he asks Charlie. He's like, oh, I haven't talked to you in a while. How was your day? Like, when you actually were going out with Charlie and he said hi to you in the hallway, you'd be like, I've never talked to you before in my life. Why the fuck are you talking to me? It's just so weird. But anyway, yeah, Imogen really has a girl power moment and stands up to him, breaks up with him. She goes to the bathroom, and Nick and Charlie follow her to go comfort her. And she does ask Charlie briefly, did you and Ben ever? And then like there's a moment of hesitation and she's like, it doesn't matter, which I really respect her for. And then she says, this would be so much easier if I just liked girls. And Charlie and Nick look at each other and they're like, I don't think that's true, but I understand where you're coming from. And then they all have this really cute group hug where you see Nick's head on top of Charlie and Imogen's, and it's him and his boy and his oldest friend, and it's cute.
It's very sweet. Things that we wanted to talk about. Fun scene is the bus ride to Paris scene.
Mm-hmm.
We open up and you want to explain it, Harry being confused, because I also was confused and I relate to Harry in this moment.
Yeah, so we're re-recording this because we had a technical difficulty. So I just blew Jess's mind a little bit because the way that the bus works to get from the UK to France is, if you don't know, you are on a bus, which then drives into a compartment on a train, which then goes through an underwater tunnel. And then when you get back to land, the bus comes out of the train. So, yeah, that's how that works. And we see Harry talking to Ben, and he's like, so on a bus, but what, on a train? And Ben's like, yeah. And then we see Darcy go to Mr. Farouk, and she's like, we're underwater right now, right? And he goes, yeah. So why can't I see any fish? And she's just like very genuine about it. And Tara's like, oh, honey.
Not how it works.
But it's a valid question to me, because if you're going to build an underwater tunnel, why aren't you going to put windows? I want to see that shit.
Yeah, I agree it would be cool, but I feel like it's a pressure issue.
Yeah, I'm sure. The glass and all that. Whatever. Also, on the bus ride, we see Nick speak French on the phone to his dad, and Tao's like, what the hell was that? Who has otherwise been uninterested in this man. And then he speaks French and he's like, huh, depth. Yeah. He's not just a rugby lad. And he says it's unexpected that Nick's dad is French. And this is where we learn that his dad is French. We didn't know before. Yeah.
We also in this episode get the second Instagram post. We don't remember what the caption was, but it's a photo of Nick and Charlie eating ice cream. And so this is the first one, right? The other one was just Nick and or Charlie and Nellie, and now we get the two of them together sharing ice cream.
And I want to touch on the ice cream moment. It's a cute moment between Nick and Charlie, but it is also more of the progression of Charlie's eating disorder, because Nick brings him the ice cream and Charlie says, "Oh, I had a big breakfast." And Nick is like, "You hardly ate at breakfast." And so Charlie very reluctantly takes the ice cream. But then he does give it a lick and he gets chocolate all over his nose, and Nick cleans it off, and it's really cute.
Mm-hmm.
Except he leaves a little spot, which kind of bothers me.
Yeah, he does leave a little spot. But you also see Charlie after taking a bite, even though he was really reluctant, he was like, "Oh, this is actually pretty good."
And he's like, "Chocolate, not bubble gum." And Nick's like, "You've been a good influence on me."
Yeah, it's so cute. Hickies. I want to talk about hickies because I do actually love that Alice included this. This is canon, like this whole episode and what happens. Well, the next episode is very, very canon with what the hickey leads to. But I just think when you're like in a young relationship like that and you haven't done other things sexually and you're exploring like romance and sex, it's just like a very natural thing to start doing, right? Like you're making out and then you start kissing other places and then hickeys happen. So I just think that it's like very real that she included this, but also just like so high school and college. Like I feel like as an adult, like hickeys are not a thing that happen.
I don't really know that I've ever had a hickey.
Never?
I'm not sure. I haven't kissed that many people in my life. But I know that my last boyfriend relationship was an adult one. We were both in our mid to late 20s. And so anytime I would kiss him a little bit too much on the neck, he'd be like, I'm not having a hickey. And I was like, what? You're so boring.
It's not boring. I completely understand. We also get in kind of the reconciling of Tao and Elle and them agreeing to be friends in the morning before they go to explore at breakfast. Tao's going through the buffet and he noticed that there's like a tub of apple juice. And so he grabs one and he just drops it in front of Elle before going to his table and like doesn't say anything. And she opens it and drinks it and he's looking at her and it's just very like cute.
This is the moment that the L's wall finally goes back down.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote in my notes, apple juice is Tao's trigger and L's love language.
Yeah.
And it's the same exact label as the one that the generic label that they put in the UK, but instead of apple juice, it says like juice de pomme, which I thought was a fun touch.
Yeah, it's literally the same bottle. They just changed the label.
A couple other things that I wanted to talk about it's the first mention of sex in the series, which we get a little bit later. Spoilers. This is when they're alone, and Charlie and Nick are talking about how they can't share a bed, and Nick is like, "Oh, we'll get to do it someday." He says it something like that, where it's like, "Do it, isn't it?" And then he's like, "That's not what I meant." And so they never said the word sex or anything. And Charlie's like, I didn't think that's what you meant, and whatever. And they're talking about sharing a bed, but which also I think they've had sleepovers at this point, so I'm sure they have shared a bed. But anyway, it's just like a cute little awkward moment. Which, yeah, I watched Katya real quick. I watched Katya and Trixie Mattel react to this series beforehand, and one of their biggest notes throughout their whole thing, which obviously they're like doing a bunch more truncated reaction, is about how it's not a realistic show because there's no sex in it and it's so PG, and like if you were a boy with another boy alone, like you would be having sex. And I get that, but I also think that this is valid. Like I was not having sex in high school. Jess, I don't believe you were either. I think it was like right after.
Not until I graduated. Yeah, I was not having high school. Or I was not having sex in high school.
Sex is very intimidating, and these are two boys who are just figuring out being in a relationship, and then to add on having man on man sex, like that's a whole that's a lot more Googling Nick has to do, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I actually
Seriously.
think it's kind of realistic.
I think it's extremely realistic.
Yeah, but we'll get into more of that later. Yeah, I really want to also tell the whole reason he doesn't share a bed with Isaac is because he's like, I thought you wouldn't want to because literally just standing next to Al makes me feel like I'm being electrocuted. And I'm like, Tal, get out of your own fucking head for a second. Like, you and Al are in a relationship. These boys have been dating for months.
Mm-hmm.
And they couldn't tell him that they want to share a bed?
Yeah, that was my biggest thing, that they both just were like, oh, guess this is what it is. I'm like, why is no one? Because I feel like Isaac would have moved. I don't think Tao would have, but I think Isaac would have.
Yeah. Also, this is called challenge because at the beginning, since they're being low-key, Charlie's like, I bet you can't go with 2 days without kissing me. And then they almost kiss a bunch of times, but then they don't. But then the end, obviously, they make out and the hickey is formed. But it's kind of like a fun little tease.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's so many good quotes as we keep going. But anyway.
Yeah.
So earlier in the very first episode when they have the sleepover, Nick tries to have a heart-to-heart with Tao, and Tao gets defensive and he's not having it. And he's generally been uninterested with Nick. And then now Nick is having a heart-to-heart with Tao in the room about Elle. And Tao's like, she's so interesting and beautiful and cool. And Nick is like, I think you're pretty cool and interesting too. He says, and beautiful? You're a good looking guy if that's what you're worried about. I thought you didn't even like me. And this line pisses me off because Tao motherfucking Sue is the whole problem. Nick has tried so hard to be his friend, and he has made it so hard. And he's the one saying, I thought you didn't even like me?
Mm-hmm.
You have no right. You
Agreed.
didn't like him.
Yeah. You like stared into his eyes uncomfortably while eating a French fry while you're all bowling and supposed to be celebrating Charlie's birthday. And you're going to tell Nick that you thought that he didn't like you?
You spent the entire season 1 trying to convince Charlie to not go out with him because he's just another boring straight rugby lad who's gonna like Marvel movies, which the way he does like Marvel movies is revealed in this one, but whatever. And like you've spent all this time dismissing him, and even earlier in the season he tries to talk to you and you're like, that's none of your business.
Mm-hmm.
But it is cute to see them, Tao finally opening up to him a little bit, and I love Isaac is like watching them from the corner of his eye and smiling and like enjoying this moment too, and like, Isaac is me.
Mm-hmm. We do get some fun quotes in this episode. I don't know if we need to cover them all, but we might. On the bus ride, we get this Imogen quote that's like so casual. She's walking in the bus. It's not a big deal. She's talking to Ben. But she says, and I'm sorry, but nowadays you need to have like a 7-step skincare routine. So if I pack too much, then it's the patriarchy, not my fault. And I just loved that quote from her.
They have some really good background lines because I didn't notice that one, so I know it's more of a background line.
Yeah.
Iconic, seen it all over Tumblr. Charlie and Nick are about to kiss when they're alone, and then Darcy opens the door and goes, oh, you're being gay? Carry on.
When Imogen is breaking up with Ben at the dinner table, she's like giving this really impassioned, like everything she's saying makes sense. But I love that they just throw in this very like millennial teenager quote where she goes, your energy's off.
Gen Z, really.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I meant. I meant Gen Z.
Yeah. And then also from that same scene, when after your energy's off and she and Ben leave and Charlie and Nick are going to console Imogen, in a background line, Elle's saying like she didn't do anything wrong, and then Tao says he gives me such stinky energy, which is just like a really
I didn't notice that.
Yeah. Imogen and Darcy are really killing it this episode because then we get Darcy where when Nick is buying ice cream, he's on the phone with he orders it in French, and so Sahara's like, you speak French? Why did I not know this? And he goes, yeah, my dad's French. And Darcy goes, since when? And it's just like, since his birth?
Yeah.
Which I just is a great retort. Um, when Imogen is ranting before she breaks up with Ben to Elle and Charlie, or to Elle and Nick, or I don't know, a group of them, about Ben. She says, I'm not even sure he likes me that much. And Elle goes, do you even like him? Which is really good.
Yeah, and it's valid. Because, like, the way that he treats her and the way she complains about it, it's like, well, do you? Like, truly?
And I think it'll roll into what I suspect is happening with Imogen's character that we'll talk about more later. And also in that same exact scene, Imogen fucking knocks it out of the park saying, like, I know I haven't had the best track record with relationships, but I think being honest is better than living with regret. Which I think is so mature of her.
I agree. And then we get one of the only good Harry lines. Actually, we get a few in this season. I take that back. But when when Imogen is breaking up with Ben, Ben is like, you didn't have to be such a bitch about it. And Harry stands up for Imogen and is like, there is no need to call her a bitch. And everyone was like, yes. Like, because for once we agree with Harry. Like, he needed to say that, and it was great that he did.
Okay, you're giving Harry too much credit. He just is like, there's no need to call her a bitch.
Yeah, but like all the attention is at the table. Like he knows that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He made an active decision to, like, both of them are childhood friends. Like, yes, he's been friends with Imogen, but also with Ben, you know?
All right. Moving on. Episode 5.
Heat.
So, we open up with Nick in bed looking at his texts from his dad, which are non-existent. He has not been responding. And then he gets a message from Charlie saying, hey, come meet me in the bathroom. And this is where he sees the hickey. And Nick's like, did I do that? I didn't even know how to do that. And then Tao comes in and is like, what are you guys doing? And then he's like, how could you do that? We'll be having words. They go to breakfast and Charlie's not hungry. So Nick packs him a croissant, which is just a really cute little touch. We start to hear rumors flying around the table that this hickey is from James because he's the only other gay kid in the school. And then we go to the Eiffel Tower. First thing in the morning, we go to the Eiffel Tower and they're like, hey, you guys, this is a language trip, so we're going to pair you off and you're going to learn vocab. And of course, Charlie is paired with James. And of course, Nick is paired with Ben.
Because he always is.
And yeah, and while they're sitting down, Ben tells Nick that he wants Charlie back.
Sheer audacity. I'm like, what?
He says, are you happy? Like, you're literally ruining my life. Like, you stole Charlie from me, and then you ruined things with Imogen, and I was messed up before, but, like, I didn't have the time to come to terms with things, and, like, he wants Charlie back. And then later when they're on top of the Eiffel Tower, which we get a cute montage of them running up the stairs. It's a fuck ton of stairs. I don't know how they did that. Literally taking the elevator when there are tourists there takes an hour. It's multiple elevators. I think it's like 100 floors. It's
Can you even walk up the stairs?
Yeah, you can. It's cheaper.
Oh my god.
But the girl that played Sahar in an interview said that scene concerned her because she wasn't sure she was gonna make it.
Which is fair.
Yeah. But when they're on top of the Eiffel Tower, we get this really cute moment that's also from the comics where Charlie and Nick are looking at all the views and they're taking a selfie for Sarah, and then one of the guys in Harry's friend group, but not Harry, says like, "Oi, is that Nicky from you or Hickey from you then, Nick?" And he's like, "What if it was? You jealous?" To which Harry actually surprisingly is like, "Leave him alone." But it's cute that Nick is like, "So what?" Even though he's not fully owning it yet.
Yeah, he's not fully out, but it kind of shows the progression of like Nick accepting like maybe him coming out is not going to be like this idyllic thing he has in his head of where he's telling everyone. Like maybe it's going to be small moments like this where he just like is accepting it even though it's not ideal.
Yeah. And then we go from they have a huge day. And
Yeah, so
reminder,
many things.
Charlie did not eat breakfast. They climb the Eiffel Tower. Then there's this scene that we're going to talk about later on the bridge with the locks that I don't know the name of and I didn't care to look up. And then they go to the Louvre, where Mr. Farouk says you have until 5 to run around. After that, you get locked in. And there's a moment where Nick and Charlie sit down together, and because most of the time it's in the friend group, there's actually a really cute scene of like Nick and Isaac talking about chisels. But yeah, Nick and Charlie talk, and Nick tells him what Ben said about him, and Charlie's like, he doesn't have a chance. But then we see his vision blur. And then just a little bit later, they're in another room, and Charlie faints into Nick's arms, which is sad. The kids go and want to get the teachers, who bring them to a cafe, and Nick confronts him and says, I noticed that you don't really eat. And Charlie says that, like, some days he's okay, but sometimes he really feels the need to control it.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, they go walk around. Nick's dad calls. He speaks French. Charlie blushes the fucking house down. He's so smitten and, like, probably a little turned on, because, like, we all are when someone starts speaking another language. And they have this cute little moment where he's like, do you like the fact that I speak French? And then Nick confesses about his dad not being a great dad, and they promise to tell each other when they have stuff going on, and then run off to go meet Nick's dad at a cafe. Where the episode ends. Obviously, we've got more to cover, but yeah, that's, yeah.
Yep. Elle, oh my god, this scene is so funny. So Elle comes to get the boys for breakfast the morning of the hickey incident, and because so much is going on, right? There's a hickey, they're trying to figure out what to do. Tao opens up the door shirtless and sees that it's Elle, and immediately, like, jumps to cover his chest and, like, shuts the door.
And I just want to point out that I've noticed online, a lot of people have really loved this scene because Tao knew Elle before she transitioned, and it's one of those indications that he really does see her as a girl. Because he wouldn't feel that self-consciousness with just another friend.
I like that. Then at the Louvre, Nick and Elle have, like, a little heart-to-heart, and after that, Elle grabs Tao and kind of runs off with him. And they're sitting together, and Tao's taking photos, and Elle's like, I just feel so inspired here. It makes me want to draw. And she's sitting and drawing, and Tao's watching her draw, and they're just having this, like, sweet friendship moment. And she spontaneously kisses Tao, but then immediately is like, oh my god, we just agreed to be friends. Like, what have I done? She doesn't say this out loud, but this is what I imagine going through her brain. And she
apologizes out loud.
Yeah, she does apologize.
Like, that was so stupid. I'm so sorry.
She pulls away, and then Tao's like, no, 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 and, like, goes up to her, and then they kiss again and share, like, a series of kisses.
And we get a little foot pop on Elle's account, which I love a foot pop because I grew up watching The Princess Diaries.
It's very cute.
Yeah.
We get another Tara and Darcy I love you conversation. They're paired up for the Eiffel Tower vocab.
How do they always get paired up?
Yeah, literally. It's like everyone else gets, like, unfortunate combinations, and then they always get each other. It's like, what? So Tara brings up the I love you and tells her, like, I know you knew I didn't mean it as a casual I love you. Like, why didn't you say anything back? Like, why do you ignore me every single time I bring it up? And Darcy, like, continues to act the same, so she just drops it. But then at the Louvre, Tara continues to kind of, like, ask Darcy more questions, and it's like, why can't you talk about anything seriously? Like, why have I never been to your house? Why have I never met your parents? Like, let's talk about some serious things for once. And she's really, like, pushing Darcy a little out of her comfort zone.
Yeah. Because Darcy is the queen of deflection. And then, as I mentioned before, They do have this scene on that whatever that bridge is where it's really popular for people to buy locks and write you and the person you like's name on it with a heart and lock it as like this is us, and it's like a symbol of us forever. So they're on this bridge and Charlie shows his lock to Tao and is like, you can go get one too. And then Tao, I don't even remember what prompts this, but Tao admits that, like, you know, I'm basically the reason that you got outed. And I was talking to Isaac after you came out to us, and some people overheard. And that's when all of the bullying began. And I'm so sorry. And like, you should hate me. And Charlie's like, you know, that wasn't your fault. And they talk about how they met in year 7. And we get this really cute flashback to them. And I think it's so funny because that's 3 years ago. And they look 10 years younger. They look like absolute little babies. And they bond over music. Charlie reassures him, and then he writes Charlie heart Tao on the neck on the locket, and Tao's like, wasn't that for you and Nick? And he's like, no. And then puts it on the bridge. It's just a sweet moment, one of those moments that this season is really capturing, like the importance and beauty of friendship.
I also like that they included this because this is something in the books that is brought up. Like we saw in season 1 that Charlie kind of struggled to tell Tao that he was, that him and Nick were a thing. And it was kind of chalked up to the fact that like Tao is so protective of the friend group, which is true. But also what's explored in the webcomic is that like Charlie does know, or he's pretty confident and knows from others that the reason he got outed was because of Tao. And so he's a little nervous to share about his thing with Nick with Tao because he does not want, he's like, I can handle this, but I don't want Nick to go through what I went through. And so that's like an actual challenge. And that kind of just like was not a thing in the Netflix series. However, in season 2, I like that she did put in the conversation there and include that.
And the way that they acted it out, Charlie wasn't in any way surprised. You could tell that he knew. Yeah. Some of the favorite moments we had when they're paired up with the Eiffel Tower, Isaac gets paired up with Harry. And he has this great scene because Isaac is always, always, always head in a book, barely around, but like paying attention. And this time he has no book on him and he is just going into Harry. And he says, I know you think it's funny to point things out about people and get a laugh out of your mates, but do you ever stop and think about how it makes them feel? Like, come on, Harry, where's your basic human empathy? Which is
so good.
So good, so valid. And I love seeing our little quiet boy step up in a big way.
I already touched on this, but they freaking climbed the Eiffel Tower. Why?
Mr. Farouk even goes to Mr. Ajayi, is that what it is?
Yeah, Ajayu?
I think it starts with an A.
Yeah, Ajayu, I think, is how they pronounce it in the series.
And he's like, we didn't get the tickets for the elevator? And he's like, no. Also, I just wanted to talk on, like, the way that he talks about his eating disorder is not how anyone would talk about an eating disorder. As I mentioned, I watched Trixie and Katya react to this, and they talk, they're like, this is on Voltron, like, this is a whole nother reality that all of this is happening, because to them, like, it's very unrealistic that, like, kids are this nice or whatever. I don't think so. I think that has to do with gay culture. I think Gen Z is more aware of things, and a lot of things are unrealistic, but that Alice is very intentional about the way some things are talked about so that they are not triggering or confusing or glorified. The way that Nick said, I hate you because you literally assaulted him. When people talk about eating disorders, you rarely ever hear someone talk about, like, the need for control. In my experience from, like, when people have eating disorders, but that is actually, like, the therapized root of what they stem from. It's not usually about body image the way people think. It's about your need to feel like you can control some part of your life when everything else is
out of your control, or feels out of your control.
Yeah. So the way that he spoke about it felt a little like unrealistic to me, but also very intentional and well done.
Mm-hmm. I think it also connects, like Alice says this in their webcomic, like she consistently is kind of repeating this. She also gives trigger warnings to certain episodes of the webcomic and graphic novel, but her thing is like she always wants to focus on the joy, and I think that's why she's so intentional when real things are happening, is because she doesn't want this to be another queer show where everything's about all these awful things. She wants to acknowledge that they're going on and that these things do happen while still focusing on the joy. And so she's just very thoughtful in the way that certain topics are approached.
Yeah. Tao Tzu is a true ally because in that bridge scene, they have a sweet long hug, and Charlie says, "People are gonna think this hickey is from you," and he goes, "So what? Maybe it'll help with some of the rumors." And I just
Yeah.
really love him because he's not ever weird. He doesn't give a shit,
No,
which is what a true
totally not.
ally is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You and Darcy had the same feelings about the Mona Lisa. It was small.
Yes, it is very small.
Mm-hmm.
And you go and see it and you're like, it's great. But also, I'm surrounded in a giant museum full of really great art that's not so tiny.
Sure.
And also, they rent it out. Trixie and Katya were like, who can rent out the Louvre and close it? There's Beyonce and there's Heartstopper. But like when you go, there's so many tourists you can't even get close to it. But yeah, Darcy's very unimpressed, and I was also very unimpressed.
The other thing I want to comment is the outfits in the Eiffel Tower scene. Nick has like a striped sweater, or Charlie has a striped sweater, and Nick is wearing like a t-shirt that is in a similar shade of one of the stripes on the sweater. So they're a little matching with like red, what kind of looks like sporty shorts. But it is the exact same outfits as they are wearing on the cover of book number 3.
Yeah, as discussed, the art team went out and found the exact outfits, which is super cool.
Mm-hmm.
Some quotes.
Yeah. Nick and Charlie are in the bathroom, and I think this is Charlie asked the question first,
Yeah.
but he's showing him the hickey, and Charlie's like, do you think anyone will notice? And Nick so honestly is like, yeah, I think everyone will notice.
Yeah, it's his golden retriever showing.
It's so cute because he's like, yes, everyone is gonna notice it.
One of my favorite lines from this whole series is when Nick and Ben get paired up in front of the Eiffel Tower. Ben says, "I don't want to go with Nick Nelson," and Mr. Farouk goes, "I don't give a rat's ass, rude boy, grow up."
It's so funny.
Literally word for word, that's what he says. And Mr. Ajay is looking at him like, yeah.
Yeah. While I'm pretty sure this is on the Eiffel Tower, but Nick and Charlie are chatting, and
It is on the Eiffel Tower. It's
yeah,
when the boys are like, "Was that from you?" And he's like, "So what if it was?"
yeah, and Charlie's like, well, maybe we shouldn't hang out so much right now. People might think it was you. And Nick is like, you do know it was me, right?
Yeah.
And it's such a like fun, flirtatious moment between the two of them.
Absolutely. And then the really sweet heart to heart that Nick and Elle have in the Louvre, they're both looking at the same painting, and Nick is like, "I don't really understand a lot of it," and Elle says, "You don't have to understand art to enjoy it," and then he's like, "Maybe that's like life," and says, "You don't always need to understand your feelings completely to know you like something. You don't always have to have figured out everything. You can just feel," which is so sweet and beautiful, and what prompts Elle to run off with Tao and just feel for a bit. So,
all right, episode 6,
Truth/Dare. This one, okay, episodes 6 and 8 are gonna be the hardest for us to summarize because we parsed it off, but like there's a lot of overlap of the groups, so bear with us.
Yeah, this one's like a little different. We're not gonna we will focus a little on couple by couple, but then some of it is bunched together because that's just the way it needed to be. Okay.
Yeah.
Nick and Charlie. So right, we just left off. They're running to catch the train to go to this cafe to meet Nick's dad. They're now at the cafe, And we kind of see that it's awkward and uncomfortable. Nick doesn't really know how to like talk and have a casual conversation with his dad. There was some talk with him and Charlie that like maybe he would use this as an opportunity to come out to his dad. And so they walk in. Charlie's like, do you want me to just stay back here? And Nick's like, no, I want you there. And so Charlie's like, okay. So they sit down. The dad orders coffee, but it's just like a super service level conversation. Like he immediately is asking about like rugby and if they have girlfriends. And that's like as deep as the dad is able to get. We see him then receive a business call and is like, gotta take this. Bye, boys. And he's there for like 5 minutes, it feels.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. But he does say right before he leaves, his big news is that he's going to be in England next week. And Nick says, we can probably have you over for dinner. Because Nick is really disappointed because he wanted to come out to his dad.
And then everyone learns about, so Tao is telling the boys and then Elle is telling all the girls that they kissed at the Louvre. And so they're like, oh, let's text each other and like, let's all meet up to explore the hotel. So they all sneak out after curfew and are like running around the hotel. And Nick and Charlie start making out, but are immediately caught by the teachers and scold them for being past curfew. So then they have to go back to the hotel room.
One of my favorite recurring bits is the meddling gays.
Yeah.
Tao and Elle, as we said, they kissed in the Louvre, which is a big Heartstopper moment, I believe, as Alice likes to call them. And so this episode, they wake up the next morning. I don't know how they refrained from saying it the whole rest of the day, but the next morning, Tao tells the boys and Elle tells the girls that they kissed, and we get this overlapping of them responding, which is really fun. I know in interviews, the Joe and Kit have said that there was one scene in filming season 2 in the hotel bedrooms where they are like particularly loopy and basically out of character, just responding as themselves. And I hands down it was this one, because it's Kit and Joe sandwiching Isaac playing Where's Wally, and he's like, you haven't found them yet. And then when Tao tells them that they kissed him or kissed Elle, they're all like, oh my god, what? And like freaking out more than the girls. It's really cute. And yeah,
it's very cute.
And then when they go run off in the hallway, Elle immediately grabs Tao and he tries to ask if they want to be going, if they're officially going out, and she just starts making out with him. Okay, and this is the reason that we have to talk differently. It's Tara's birthday.
Yeah.
And so it starts off with them singing happy birthday to Tara at breakfast, and Darcy gives her a sweatshirt with her face all over it, and Mr. Ajayi's like, that one's gonna be a handful today. And then she surprises Tara with a birthday party.
Yeah. And Darcy has alcohol. This is like kind of important to the plot. It looks like shitty vodka. It looks terrible. Also, where did she get it? But it's
also,
not that
it's
hard,
endlessly refilling.
Yeah, it's full. I texted Amanda this. That bottle is full the entire time, but you see them all drinking it. And you're like, where is it? And there's so many of them in this hotel room. Also, Ben shows up. Literally, why I don't understand.
That one like bothers me because not only is like none of them know about him and Charlie, because Charlie and Nick have not outed him, but Imogen just busted his ass. Why is he there?
Literally. Nick and Charlie sneak out to the balcony of the hotel room and they're kind of chatting, and it's this cute callback to when they went to Harry's birthday party in season 1 and they snuck away at the party, and they're like, oh, why are we always sneaking away and just being with each other at parties? Darcy comes out and she gives them alcohol and they're both like, ugh, this is disgusting. They all go inside and they get a knock on the door and they're like, everyone is in here, because literally everyone is in that room. And they open up the door and it's Harry and the lad showing up and they want to be invited into the party. However, Tara's like, no, I don't want you here. Leave.
And Harry's like, I invited you to my party. And she's like, well, there's no homophobes at mine.
Yeah. And Harry ends up apologizing about being homophobic.
To Nick and Charlie.
Yeah.
Because he won't do it again.
But they don't let him into the party, and Charlie shuts the door in his face because good. That is what Harry deserves. He does not need to be there.
And then we see them playing Truth or Dare with the vodka that is still as full as it's been this whole time. And like they're spinning it around. We get this really funny moment where Tao kisses Charlie, and then Charlie gets dared to kiss James. And he's like, no. And then Charlie gets dared to kiss Ben, and Ben's like, what the fuck? This is so stupid. You're just not even funny. And he leaves because Ben's the worst. And then he's like, can I have a truth? And they're like, well, who gave you the hickey? And Charlie pauses and doesn't want to answer. And Elle's like, can we drop this? Like, we might out someone, blah, blah, blah. And finally, Nick's like, I know who gave it to him. And he grabs Charlie's hand and he says it was him. And they're going out, and the whole room is like, oh my god. And it's real. Something I really, really loved is that someone was like, do you want us to keep it a secret? Like, they're in this room full of people, and they're still like, it's the Hannah Montana movie all over again, because they're like, we will keep your secret if you need. And I hope you've seen the Hannah Montana movie to get that reference.
Yes.
And he says, no, like, I don't mind if people know. So, and then all of a sudden Darcy is like, this is so cute and gay, but I'm gonna vom. And they run her to the teacher's room instead of to the toilet.
There is a bathroom in this hotel room. Like, one, it's a hotel room. Of course it has a bathroom. But two, earlier in that same scene, we see
Tao
Elle and Tao making out in the bathroom. And Charlie's like, yo, can you get out of here? I need to pee. And they're like, no, leave us alone.
I love how much they make out.
And like, I know, it's so great. But then you're like, why did anyone think, yes, Darcy's fucking drunk. She's going to throw up because she's drunk. Let's take her to the teacher's room. It is canon, though. Like, that is what's in the novel. So, like, I get it. But also, you're like, what?
My guess is they've never really drank before. But also, clearly Alice needed it for a plot device, because they go to the teacher's room and immediately she voms on a bed, on Mr. Ajayi's bed. And, yeah, and then we'll pick up. Anyway, back in the bathroom of the hotel room where they should have vommed, Darcy finally says, I love you to Tara. And I really love the way this dialogue is written, because she says, like, I know it doesn't sound real because I'm drunk right now, but I really do love you. And Tara just kind of takes it at value and nurses her. And then Charlie and Nick, also plot device, Isaac and Tao are staying in the girls' room. Tao and Elle are giggling and so cute in bed together. Isaac is sad and off on the balcony, all alone. Also call back to Charlie and Nick earlier on the balcony. We'll get more into him. Anyway, but Charlie and Nick decide to sleep in the same bed for the first time on the field trip. And they have another conversation about sex and not feeling comfortable going any further. But also we just get this really cute montage of them switching sides and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Isaac and James finds Isaac sitting in the hallway outside of the party, and he admits that he has a crush on Isaac, and he goes in to kiss Isaac. And you can tell that, like, Isaac is going along. Like, he's not sure of his feeling. He's into it. But then the kiss happens, and you can see on Isaac's face that he does not know how to feel about it. He doesn't feel that the kiss feels like how it does in his romance novels that he reads, or in media, or the way that it's portrayed by other people.
Just and something about it doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
And that's immediately apparent on his face.
Mm-hmm. And so he apologizes and walks away. And later we see him, like, as Amanda mentioned, like, sitting out on the balcony, kind of just, like, having some alone time and, like, trying to process.
Mm-hmm. And then after the, well, okay, so a little flashback to them running around the hallway before the party, the night before the party. When the teachers catch them, Mr. Ajayi mentions that he could have let them off because he was doing the same thing at their age. And he's so obviously trying to fish out if Farouk is gay or not. By being like, did you ever do that with a boy? And then Mr. Farouk says, you know, when you don't realize that you're gay until your late 20s, you miss out on a lot of those, like, precious gay moments as a teenager. And they have a little flirting that we'll talk about a little bit more. And then later when Darcy's sick on the bed. Mr. Ajayi's like, I suppose I should go get new sheets. And Mr. Frog says, and he's so funny because he can't flirt and he can't make eye contact. He's literally like looking away when he's like, or you could share my bed. And then he's like, no, stupid idea. And then Mr. Ajayi's like, I don't think it's that stupid of an idea. And so it's implied that they hook up.
Mm-hmm. We do see them kiss. But then,
But it's implied that they do the adult thing. So, things that we have to discuss.
Yeah.
Imogen and Sahar cuddling in bed. After the party, Imogen just casually has her arm over Sahar.
But it zooms in on them.
Yeah. Also, they go to Shakespeare and Company. The name of the bookstore is completely covered up, but it's so clearly Shakespeare and Company. And Isaac is just seen walking back and forth, and every time he walks into frame, he has more books until he has like 20 books.
He has like so many books that like, you do that thing where like you have your arm around something, but then you have to like use your chin for like additional support. He's like using his chin to carry the books as well.
As mentioned, absolute ally Tao Tzu, just when he gets that dare, he's like, Charlie, come here, and gives him a little, and even Nick is like, oh my god. That's really cute.
It's so cute. I love it. We also get the third Instagram post, and this is the one with the heart, and it's a photo of Nick and Charlie. And this one does lead to comments and questions about if they're dating, through like Instagram comments.
In the Isaac and James scene, I want to talk about how, or highlight how Isaac's pullback isn't super offensive or immediate, but it's clear that he's not super into the kissing either. And so James immediately picks up on that and is like, was something wrong? Like, it's just that was my first kiss. And I feel really bad for him because he's the only other openly gay kid in the school, and he admits that he had a crush on Charlie last year but doesn't anymore, and they have this cute thing going, and like that's his first kiss and he thinks that he did something wrong. But also I feel bad for Isaac, and like Toby's performance in this episode is so good because afterwards, after that moment happens, he goes back to the party and he sees all of the various groups making out, and he has a single tear that rolls down his face, and you can just tell how alone he feels, and it's so well done.
I feel like we kind of touched on it, but like Nick's dad's awful.
Yeah, he is. We'll talk on that more.
I think this is important to note that we do get this scene where Imogen and Sahar are like kind of having not an argument, but just like a conversation of like, oh, you stopped texting me. No, you stopped texting me. And we learn that Imogen stopped texting Sahar when she got a boyfriend.
Yeah.
And we also, I think at this, do we not know?
What?
Do we know that Sahar's bi at this point?
No, not yet.
Okay, just kidding. Didn't hear that.
So Nick and Charlie are in bed, finally sharing a bed together the last night in Paris. And Charlie is, because of wrestling, he's now straddling Nick and they're making out. And so it's a little more hot and heavy. And Nick, even though he's the older one, he pulls back. And which I just point that out because I feel like dynamics like that matters. A year matters in like teenager lives. He pulls back and is the one that's like, I'm not ready to do anything more right now. And Charlie is like, yeah, no, me either. And then Nick says, but I do want to someday. And Charlie's like, yeah, me too. And I only want to because you want to. And if you never want to, then I never want to either. And then he's like, oh my God, why am I so embarrassing? And Nick's like, we both are. But it's like a very, very sweet moment about consent. And also like realistic about the fact that no, like this is very PG and teenagers aren't having sex, but they are. It's like it's still in their minds. And also I just remind like Charlie is a fresh 15 and Nick is 16, and like they are very young. I know some people had sex at that age, but like they're very young.
It feels like a very, very realistic conversation.
Aside from the fact that they don't use the word sex.
Yeah. That's very true. I
guess the not do anything more because it's anything involving genitalia, but then there's like, well, what really is sex? Anyway, yeah.
Yep. Are you cool to move on to quotes?
Yeah.
There's this moment where Nick goes up, like
God.
Charlie is fixing
I
his
love
hair
this
in the
moment
mirror.
so much.
I know, it's actually fucking adorable.
And it's from the comics, I think.
Yeah. But Nick's like fixing his hair.
Charlie's
in the
fixing
mirror.
his hair.
Oh, Charlie's fixing his hair in the mirror, and Nick comes up behind Charlie and puts his arms around him and like rests his head on him. And Charlie's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "I'm just recharging."
I love it because that is very, very real.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's something that you absolutely do, is you just get a little energy from the people you love.
It's so real. It's so cute.
I know.
It's like the show. It's just so good.
Oh, we get this really fun moment with the teachers. Like we mentioned, they are at the vending machines catching the kids, and Mr. Farouk says, probably a bit late for me to have a beautiful moment of discovery. Mr. Ajayi says, don't think there's an age limit on those, to be honest. Which is like, I just really, really appreciated that. As someone who didn't realize that they were queer until their 20s, it's like, not everyone is a baby figuring it out. I know that that's a stereotype of, like, you come out of the womb knowing you're gay, and like when people ask how do you know you're gay, they'll be like, oh well, something always felt off, or like I always liked boys instead of girls or whatever. But like, looking back now, I can identify friends that I had crushes on, but I absolutely did not know that in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I did not have any of those sweet, beautiful moments of discovery when you're a teenager. But I actually kind of prefer it this way because I also didn't have any issues of like bullying and any of those complicated feelings of like, oh my God, why do I have a crush on my friend? So that's yeah. But anyway.
Yeah, I like because, you know, you can tell Mr. Farouk is kind of like not upset that his experience is different, but just like very aware that he kind of feels that he missed out on things because he didn't, you know, discover that he was gay until his late 20s. And I think it's like really nice that he's acknowledging, like, well, you don't have to miss out on those moments. You can still have them.
I think he's a little self-conscious
Mm-hmm.
of it and his lack of experience. That's how it read to me,
Mm-hmm.
which is also quite real.
Mm-hmm. We get this cute moment where you can just tell how much, like, regardless of the plot line this season and, you know, the clear struggles in communication that Tara and Darcy are having, which are like very real when you have two people with different communication styles. Darcy's getting ready for this party, and she has this line where she's like, everything has to be perfect for Tara. She's a princess. And it's not like a she's a princess. It's like you can tell that's full, like with her whole heart, that is what Darcy believes. She's like,
she's a princess.
Yeah. And she
and, like,
deserves the world.
She scrunches her nose
Yeah.
and like makes her mouth small and is just like she just loves her little princess.
Yeah. So cute.
One of the things I'm really enjoying about using this outline that we mentioned in the first episode that we're going off of is that Jess and I, normally our notes are separate, but they're combined in this outline. So some of these quotes, like actually I think all of the ones, or except maybe for I'm just recharging, I put in the other ones, but Jess, like, she didn't put in the she's a princess one, but she just gushed so much over it, like,
love it.
Which I just like love because it's clear, like, even if it didn't stick out to you immediately, like, you're like, oh, that's right, like, that was so cute. And I think that's happened a lot with this outline, and seeing our own notes. But unfortunately, due to technical difficulties and also because we're already over an hour, we are going to be cutting Heartstopper here to pick up in a third episode to cover episodes 7 and 8 and our final thoughts on this season. Also, there's just like so much in these episodes that to cover that we don't want to like shorten our thoughts or highlights or the content of our content, you know?
Yeah. I was going to say, Amanda said unfortunately, but I think fortunately, because what's going to happen is we already recorded 2 episodes. We're going to come back. We're going to give you a third. It's going to be awesome. We're going to feel like we can spend all the time going through what we actually want to cover to make sure we're giving you a really good episode and highlighting everything. So I think it's going to be better for all. And we get to talk about everything. And I just like, I can't skip out on any of the things with this show because it is just like so good. And the small moments, like the whole show is a collection of small moments.
Yeah, and especially episodes 7 and 8, a lot happens in them.
Mhm.
So it's going to be good to be able to focus on them and give them the time that they deserve. And I just also we didn't mention it, but episode 6 ends with them leaving Paris. But yeah, it's so good, and I'm sure both of us will have probably rewatched again by the time we record our last episode.
Guarantee it.
We hope that you have been enjoying this, and hope that our iPhone storage clears up soon.
Yeah, just like give some thoughts, positive energy, like maybe telepathically clear our iPhone storage for us. That would be good.
Without getting rid of any of our stuff.
Yeah. Exactly. Everything on our drive needs to stay. You can follow us on social media at 90s Babies Nostalgia. Spell out the word 90s. We're on Instagram and on YouTube. Please let us know like your favorite things about Heartstopper, what you enjoyed, what moments that stood out to you, because like as we said, this is a collection of small moments and we're covering a lot, but we're not covering everything, and I'm sure we missed moments that people love. So I'd love to know what we missed that was favorite moment for you, and we'll see you in the next one where we finish up the rest of Heartstopper.
We thought that we could record all of season 2 in one episode, and I decided yesterday it would be 2 episodes, and now it's going to be 3 episodes. So you're welcome. I hope you're enjoying it, and well, yeah, hopefully you tune in for the 3rd one. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
90s babies nostalgia. Stay gay.
Mm-hmm.